Shana Bowling. Last summer, mid-July, I was in Ohio. My boyfriend was really drunk, and he was running down a hill, and he was screaming about how he could beat me back to the tent. He tripped on a cornhole board, took a nosedive, like arms at his side, and drilled his shoulder into the ground. And I could immediately tell that he had hurt himself, like he broke his clavicle. And he stood up, and he just kind of shook it off, and he was sitting there, like, pretending to not care. Like, he was really drunk, so he probably didn't feel it as much as you would expect someone to feel a broken bone. But I finally talked him to go to the tent, and he had to go to the hospital. So you're probably wondering why he didn't want to go. He was at one of his favorite things in the world, which is the gathering of the Juggalos. How many of you have heard of this? Thank God, not many of you. For you probably already have an idea of some kind of white trash washed out meth head in your mind, and I just want to ask you to get a clear image there. Try to bear with me through this with an open mind. So the gathering of the Juggalos, this is like an image of their art, really, album covers kind of mushed together. It follows the music group ICP, which is Insane Clown Posse, and they do a lot of horrorcore rap music of their own style. Their fans are called Juggalos if you're a guy, Juggalos if you're a girl. It's a very different culture from what I was used to when I first went. So ICP started in Detroit around 1980s, late 1980s. It was Joseph Violent J. Bruce and Joseph Shaggy 2 Dope Uxler. And they started out as wrestlers in Detroit, so they were in an inner city posse as wrestlers. That was like their tag name. And they did a lot of like small clubs and wrestling things, and they started doing some rapping on the side. And after a while, they just got tired. Joseph Bruce got tired of a lot of like the politics and how they controlled you in wrestling, and so he broke away from it, and Uxler followed him. And so they started rapping. They started doing music at small clubs, and they actually got a lot of beef with the people when they started out, because they started out in Detroit around the 1980s, late 1980s. Does anybody else know anybody else who started in Detroit late 1980s? Anybody? Maybe Marshall Mathers, Eminem. So they had a lot of beef with him, apparently. Now, the book ICP Behind the Paint claims that most followers of ICP believe that it was because it started because they were supposed to play at some nightclub, and Eminem was scheduled to go on, and he put on his flyers that maybe ICP would be there. Now, obviously, from that point, he's gotten a lot more popular, but I think ICP had a little bit of a head start on him in that area, so they were a little more widely known. But for some reason, that made them very mad that he would claim that they would be there, and they were never discussed, like never asked to go there. They never talked about it. They also had a lot of beef with Esham. He's also not as popular these days, but that was more, they started out on Esham's record label, and so that was more of like a conflict of interest. They believe they were cheated out of a lot of like money and records and deals and all of that, so they broke away from that. And in the summer of 2000, the first gathering of the Juggalos began. Now, the reason the gathering of the Juggalos has a lot of negative connotations to it, a lot of people have a very bad impression of it, is because it's a place where people really just do what they want. It's been deemed a modern-day Woodstock. Last year, their theme was Whoopstock. So they have like a saying, like if they see somebody wearing like a band t-shirt of someone who would play there or go there, they'll yell whoop whoop as like a sign of camaraderie or whatever. So it's like a culture thing. And so they call it Woodstock. And a lot of people have issues with that. A lot of people have problems with how they're associated to really anything outside of their own culture, because legally they're classified as a gang. It's kind of a recent thing, and a lot of people are trying to fight it because, so the members, the two founding ICP, Joseph Bruce and Joseph Uxler, they're more commonly known by Violent J and Shaggy 2 Dope pretty much in everything they do. So they used to be in gangs, and like from the early 90s to the late 90s, and the last time they got arrested, it was for something, I think it was trespassing and breaking probation. And then they realized that they have families now, and they left all the gangs they were previously in. And so they're not really happy about being called a gang right now. They're called by Marquette Law Review as nonviolent offenders targeted by law enforcement. So really people just aren't happy with the way they do things. They also have a lot of negative ideas about them because of there's a lot of drugs and nudity at the gatherings. It's really a place where people do what they want. If you don't want to wear clothes, you just don't wear clothes, and nobody cares, nobody says anything. There's a little strip of land. They have the gathering in a lot of places. So like they had it in Minnesota one year, last year was in Ohio, and I think this year it's going to be in Illinois or Indiana. And everywhere they go, they designate like a little strip of road, and they park cars on either side of it, and they call it the drug bridge. So you could go and pretty much get whatever drug you wanted. And so that's not too popular. It's not really a place for children or for your grandmother or people that you wouldn't want associated with that kind of thing. But you yourself are safe. They've never had any kind of incident where someone got hurt that didn't sign themselves up for it. So like if you got in a mosh pit and got hurt, you did that to yourself. You put yourself in that situation. If you do drugs, you put yourself in that situation. Or if you have a pre-existing condition, the only other death they've had that wasn't from or injury that they've had that wasn't from a mosh pit or something you put yourself into is if you had like a heart condition. I think they've had 2 heart attack deaths, but that's something personally wrong with you. So it's not something where people are going to hurt you or anybody's going to really get into a fight with you or anything. So if you ever did decide to go, they have a lot of attractions. This is a guy that goes every year. They call him Burrito Man because he brings his own burritos. I've never eaten one. I'm a little scared to eat one. I don't know what's special about them, but he comes every year. It's a big deal. They do radio interviews with him. They have a lot of different tents, a lot of music tents. They have the main stage where they have the ICP, Tech 9, all of the main people who come to perform. And then they have a carnival tent that's usually set up with a radio station that'll do interviews and kind of film the whole thing. And then they have a third tent that's just placed wherever is convenient. And then they have different styles of music, like the people who are less popular that come. I think Yellow Wolf is someone who's usually at that tent. And then they just alternate throughout nights the different styles of music that could be there. They also have carnival rides. They had a suspension show one year that was really cool, where they just put hooks through people and they hung them by their skin. They do it professionally, so it wasn't like some random guy just went up and got hooked to the stage. And so they do wrestling. This is a picture of their wrestling. This is Mike Busey. He's another big hit that comes there every year. He has a bus called Busey Babes, where I know they do a little bit of stripping and they do a little bit of private parties. It's nothing illegal or anything crazy, but they do that. And so, yeah, the gathering is just a place where people who really just do what they want come to do what they want and enjoy the music.
Okay. Daria, can you come up with a question?
How did you find out about them? Besides your boyfriend being drunk at the concert?
His cousin really likes that music, the horrorcore